It starts today, ladies and gentlemen. I've literally worked all year to hopefully either take down an underdog tournament or take down the Flock League. I'd be happy with either. But hopefully I can help you take down your league starting with this live stream. Now let's go through the news of the day. Geno Smith doesn't practice. I would be surprised if he played. Devontae Adams doesn't practice. My expectations are Adams probably going to be good to go. Josh Jacobs doesn't practice. I would assume Jacobs will be fine. But with Adams and Jacobs, super important to monitor the Friday practice for these guys. Dermagado gets in a limited practice. It doesn't matter. They play the Houston Texans. The only player in Arizona you can play against Houston Texans is going to be Michael Wilson. You shouldn't even be that excited about it. Even though Marv does not practice on Thursday, more likely than not, you are going to have no Marv, and Michael Wilson probably is startable. Woody Marks gets in a limited practice. Nick Chubb does not practice. So I'm going to assume that Woody Marks plays. Nick Chubb doesn't. And Woody Marks is a must-start player in that scenario. CeeDee Lamb gets in a full practice. So it sounds like CeeDee Lamb is going to be playing this week. Jake Ferguson doesn't practice. This is going to be super important to monitor tomorrow. Brees gets in a limited one. Kamara does not practice. I'm going to assume that Kamara misses. And it's going to be another Devin Neal week. Fields, Tyrod Taylor both don't practice. I don't even know who the QB3 is. I can't remember his name. He played last week for the New York Jets, but I assume that's who we're looking at again this week. T. Higgins gets in a limited practice, which was a surprise. I was kind of assuming that we weren't going to have T. Higgins, but it does seem like there's a chance that he does end up playing. David Njoku, Dylan Sampson, Cedric Tillman all don't practice, so in that instance, if they don't play, Harold Fannon's going to be in your lineup. Chris Rodriguez gets in a limited one. I don't care. I'm not playing him. Tyron Tracy gets in a full practice. Tracy's going to be A-okay. You can play him for sure. Let's see. Joshua Palmer gets in a limited one. Doesn't matter. Rome Odunze gets in a limited practice. If Rome plays, I wouldn't want to start any Bears receiver. If Rome misses, Luther Burden is viable. And then Mike Evans is going to be playing tonight. The quotes are he won't play every down. So I'm going to assume they slow roll Mike Evans in. And I would not want to play Mike Evans if I had him. DK Metcalf's going to be good to go for this week. And I think that is mainly going to be it for all the updates that we have for today. But again, even though Mike Evans is playing, I think what I would do is I would lower down Igbuka. I would lower down Godwin in the ranks. But I more likely than not would not start Mike Evans. I think it almost makes you not want to play any of the Buccaneers receivers. Now, let's go ahead. Let's run through these questions. We have a ton of them that I know we need to get through. Phil says, currently leading 146 to 114 in the first round of a 14 playoff. Let's get to the finals. All right. Well, so if you have a lead, I'm playing it safe. ETN's a very safe play at running back with the matchup against the Jets. And then going over to the flex, I think RJ Harvey is a pretty damn safe play as well, even in a tough matchup, but he's going to get the volume and he'll be used as a receiver as well. So I'd probably go ahead and play the combination of like RJ Harvey and ETN. If Dylan Sampson misses, you can pivot to Judkins. Judkins and Harvey are back-to-back in my rankings. Okay. Now the Jared Monroe coming through. Here for the flex between RJ Quinshon Judkins, you would play them over any of these receivers. Like, if Dylan Sampson misses, I would go RJ If Dylan Sampson plays, if Dylan Sampson misses, I'd go Judkins. If Dylan Sampson plays, I'd go with RJ It is that close. I think it's pretty much a flip of the coin between the two. But I would not play either of the wide receivers that you have over them. Now, Shimony Shawnee, here wide receiver, no London this week. So it's either Tedero McMillan, Michael Wilson. I'm probably going to go, no, you got to go Michael Wilson. I wanted to tell you to go Tedero McMillan because the matchup's so bad for Michael Wilson, but I can't get there, sadly. And then over in the flex, we have the best running back options being Brees, Woody Marks. You also have Tedero McMillan as an option here as well. I probably myself would honestly go with the combo of Tedero McMillan and Brees Hall. Obviously not exciting whatsoever, knowing that you're in a very tough spot with the Jets offense projecting to be the second worst offense in the league this week, as well as the fact that Brees' receiving role has been shrinking. Okay. Now, Phil says I'm down 226 to 182 in a 14 playoff. DST points count, punt, kickoff, return yards. Any advice? I am not going to be able to give you any advice when it comes to the DST stuff, my friend. I'm very sorry. I literally do not track whatsoever what players are doing well with kick return yards, what players are doing poorly, what teams are. I literally am completely clueless when it comes to that. Going over to our options at receiver as well as flex, I would say I'm probably trying to shoot for the upside. I would go Breece Hall in the flex spot. And then you have no London. It's like, do you want to go with Godwin tonight, roll the dice that Rome plays? And if Rome doesn't, you go with Luther Burden. I would plan on playing whoever the starting wide receiver is for the Chicago Bears. If you don't have if Rome Odunze misses, I would go ahead and I'd play Luther Burden. If Rome plays, I would play Rome. That's what I would do. Okay. Now, Phil with another question. Here for the flex, it's between JMO, ETN. Oh, you got Rashee Rice. You play Rashee Rice. Obviously, Rice was very bad this past week. The drop balls. I think he scored 6.8 fantasy points. But it was a really tough matchup that you had against Houston Texans. This week should be a much easier spot. Not the easiest, but at least easier than it was last week. And then EDPT, running back, between Dowdle, Hendo, Chuba Hubbard, I'm going to play Trevion Henderson. And then in the flex, you play the combination of Brian Thomas and Rico Dowdle. If you were to have no Rome Odunze, you could consider Luther Burden there, but I probably would end up mentioning Luther Burden. Not an easy call, but it's something you'd probably do. Okay. Now, Hertz Glazer, between Baker, Bryce Young, we're going to go Baker. Mike Evans is back. The left tackle's back. I think more likely than not, the Bucs offense is fine tonight. Of course, not a guarantee, but my bet personally. Going over to the flex between Blake Corum, Tyler Algier, Tajay Spears, as well as Devin Singletary. I think you can go Blake Corum. This offense projects to score the most points in the league this week. Blake Corum had a decent little role this past week. Now, of course, with that in mind, you are pretty much just praying that you get a touchdown with any of these secondary backs, and it's not a guarantee with any of them. But I think it'd probably go Corum. Now, G-Man Chi, or Choi, quarterback between May and Burrow. Give me Drake May. Drake May is the top 3 quarterback this week. Going over to receiver, I'd play Michael Wilson with no Marv. Tight end, I think you're probably going to go Harold Fanta with no Njoku. And then in the flex, you play Saquon Barkley very, very easily against the Raiders, where the Eagles are massive favorites. Now, Mark at running back, you're going to play Bucky tonight, as well as Amari Hampton against the Chiefs. Don't love the matchup. Wide receiver, you play St. Brown, Pickens, and then you're going to go ahead and play Michael Wilson in the flex. Tight end, you play Trey McBride. It is very scary, though, having to play 2 Cardinals when they are going up against the best defense in football. So that'd be something that we would like to avoid if we could, but this is one of those scenarios in which I honestly don't think you can avoid it. I think you probably just have to go in that direction. Now, Mappy, here, your best name that you have on the bench at the moment is Michael Wilson. I'd play Michael Wilson over DK Metcalf under the assumption that Marv misses. And then tight end, do not play Isaiah Likely over Travis Kelce. I understand Kelce with the draw balls. Chiefs looked horrible last week. Not going to sit here and act like Kelce isn't a concern whatsoever. Like, definitely there is some concern to have with Kelce. But I'd still have a very tough time playing Isaiah Likely over him. Like, that's something I have no interest in doing. Okay. And, let's see what happens here. We just got to refresh. No. All right. We're going to take a note of this, send to the devs. Said failed to submit start set question. I refreshed. Didn't happen. I had to log out, log back in. Let's go ahead. Let's sign in. This Took a couple clicks to respond, and then we are back. Okay, so exactly how it used to be. Let's see if this loads. This does load. Okay, so let me refix this and send that over to the devs. Okay, I'm sorry. You're going to go Michael Wilson and then over Metcalf. I'd probably play Marv over Metcalf. I'm sorry, Henderson over Metcalf. And then for sure, put Kelsey in there. Okay. Okay. We got Nate the dev out here. Says the dang devs. I'd agree, my friend. The dang devs. Okay. Let me... Okay. Send this over to him. Okay. Now, Scott P. Here, tight ends. Between Harold Fant and Tyler Warren, give me Tyler Warren if Njoku plays. Give me Harold Fant if Njoku misses. And then for the flex, can y'all spam the chat? Would y'all rather play Igbuka or Terry McLaurin? Mike Evans good to go. I would probably go ahead and take... I would probably go Igbuka still over Terry, but... I mean, it's tough to be that excited about it. Let's see what the chat says. Terry. Igbuka, Terry, Igbuka. Terry. Looks like the majority of the chat actually has it as Terry. I'll pull up what the underdog projections are on it. Okay. Let's see. What do they have the projections being here? Terry, they have higher, lower, 57.5 receiving yards. Igbuka, they have 48.5. So that kind of discrepancy probably does. You can combine the underdog projections, combine with the chat saying, and it's probably a better sense of whatever my gut reaction is. So in that instance, I think you probably go ahead and I think you probably play Terry and bench Igbuka. Sad to say, because obviously, I mean, he early in the season looked like he was on track to have a Justin Jefferson level rookie year. And then, oh, how the mighty have fallen. Okay. Now, Matt, with our next question here, Jalen Hurts or Brock Purdy. 4-point passing touchdown format. I would go Jalen Hurts with the rushing upside. I think it's a big get right spot for the Philadelphia Eagles against the Raiders. And then down in the flex, it's Gadsden, RJ Harvey, Trevion Henderson. It's going to be RJ Harvey here easily. Tough matchup against the Packers, but guaranteed volume. Now, this next one's from J-Dub. Says, hey, I was hoping you could do a quick start sit question for the whole team. I have a couple hard decisions with receivers and quarterbacks. Thanks, man. P.S. Considering benching one quarterback since both have been for Mike Evans coming back. Let me know what you think. So I'm assuming, wait, what? Okay, let me see. Where is our team here? Considering benching one quarterback since both have been for Mike Evans coming back. So if you're saying that this is a super flex league where you have the combination of Lamar Jackson as well as Baker Mayfield, you do not bench either one of these quarterbacks for Mike Evans. In my mind, that would be absolutely crazy. Do not do that. Sorry. I would say Lamar is your number one starter quarterback this week. Baker's number 2. James Cook, Judkins are running back 1, running back 2. St. Brown, Devonta Smith, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. I would go Christian Watson maybe over Sutton this week. Bowers at tight end. But I would not play Mike Evans here. I would play Christian Watson over Mike Evans. I would play Cortland Sutton over Mike Evans. Again, they already told us Mike Evans isn't going to be out there for all the snaps. So if they're going to slow roll him in, I don't have a lot of faith in telling people to just jam him in week 1. So I would bench Mike Evans here very clearly. And if this is a league in which you can start both those quarterbacks, in my opinion, you for sure need to. And then beyond that, I don't necessarily think that there's anything else to mention. I would cut Troy Franklin, pick up Chuba Hubbard just in case Hubbard's a starting running back this week for sure. And then you can go ahead and pivot to Hubbard potentially as a starter next week for you in your lineup. So yeah, I would make that waiver wire pivot. But let me send you over another free start set question, my friend. That way next week you can go ahead and let us know again if you have any more. Okay. Now Mazzola with our next question. Here we're trading away Devin Neal, Khalil Shakir, Igbuka, Sutton, and Jake Ferg to get an upgrade to Jalen Waddle. So you're upgrading essentially from like Sutton to Waddle, and you're paying Igbuka, Ferg, and Devin Neal to get it done. Khalil Shakir is literally meaningless. It's a 10-team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format. So looking at this, afterwards, you'd have Waddle, George Pickens, Bucky, CMC. Who are you flexing? Jaden Reed? You're giving up too much. Like, depth doesn't matter in your format, but like, if you could keep Sutton here, sure. Or if you could keep Igbuka, but I think you need to keep one of those wide receivers. I mean, I have Jalen Waddle on my own team, and I don't think Waddle's that much better than these other names. I wish he was. Okay. Now, Dilla says start, sit, 2 receivers in a flex. Also, I could exchange my last trade question for a start set. Thanks, Goat. Yeah, let me go ahead and I'll send you over a start set. We need 2 wide receivers in a flex. So I would go Rice, Nico as our 2 wide receivers, and then I'd flex Derrick Henry. Or if you need 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and a flex, then I would go Rice, Nico, Henry, Hampton, and Olave. But yeah, if it's truly 2 receivers in a flex, it's very easy to say Rice, Nico, and Derrick Henry. Nico is a great matchup this week. I think he's actually going to perform incredibly well here against the Cards. Okay. Now, Saldeezy here for the flex. Kenneth Walker's the best name on the bench. And I, for sure, like, why do people want to start Isaiah Likely this week? I know he almost had a big game. He almost had another touchdown. Isaiah Likely's averaged 5 fantasy points this year, 7.7 last season. Isaiah Likely's never been anything better than the tight end 20 from a points per game perspective. Why would you ever start Isaiah Likely? Like, let's all please be on the same page here. If Isaiah Likely is inside your starting lineup, take him out. Yeah, I'd play Kenneth Walker over Isaiah Likely for sure. Now, Chatty, here running back. Judkins, Marks. Assuming Marks plays and Chubb doesn't, I'd play him over Hendo. And then down in the flex, I would probably go Henderson over Igbuka. I think you bench Igbuka with Evans back if that's your team. Now, max ammo here for the flex between Christian Watson, Diggs, Pittman. I honestly probably go Diggs against Buffalo and hope that the revenge narrative lasts. The usage has been trending in the wrong direction, though. That is something worth pointing out. Now, Omar, running back, you play Judkins, Amari, and Hampton here. Wide receiver, you play the combo of Jacoby Myers and Jawan Jennings. And then in the flex, you're going to play Tyrone Tracy. The only swap that you'd possibly make is if Rome ends up playing and they tell us he won't have any limitations, then you could go ahead and put Rome in over Jennings. Now, our next one's coming from Money Mike here at wide receiver between Tetaroa, J-Mo, Olave, Debo. J-Mo and actually, no, Tet, Olave. And I want to get J-Mo in. I don't know if you can start J-Mo. I have Tet, Olave, 28, 29, and J-Mo, 31 in our flex ranks. So I like J-Mo's close. I really like the game environment and I want to start him. I don't know if you can over the true alpha wide receivers though. Okay. Now, Coach Gabber here for the flex. You have Metcalf, Igbuka, Evans, or Dowdle. I'd probably go Metcalf. You can go. I don't know if I play the Bucs receivers. Again, in general, I would prefer to bench the Bucs receivers with Evans back this week. Even if Tristan Wirfs is back and even if the offense is going to improve a bit. But it does look like we hit 100 likes. I will send out those free questions when we hit 200 likes just because we have so many questions that we need to get through right now. I don't want to waste any time. So when we hit 200 likes on the stream, I'll send out a bunch of free questions in the chat. Just let me know. Now, Bodie here at quarterback. Daniel's not going to play. It's Brissett, Shedeur Sanders, and Mariota. Brissett's been a top 12 quarterback every single week that he has started this year, but at the same time, the Texans have yet to allow a top 12 quarterback finish. So it's a really, really tough matchup. I'd still probably go ahead and play Jacoby Brissett, though. Running back, you played Tyrone Tracy. And then in the two flex spots, you're going to go with Jalen Warren as well as... Your other best running back could be Ramadre. Your best wide receiver would be Romeo Doubs or Jaden Reed. They're back-to-back. And then your best tight end's Colson Loveland. I would go with Dobbs. You could pivot to Colson Loveland, though, if Rome Odunze does not play. Okay. Now, SBG, here, quarterback, give me May over Dart. Running back, Harvey, Judkins are back-to-back in my ranks this week. I'd probably go Harvey if Dylan Sampson plays, Judkins if he doesn't. It's that close. Now, Welty Cat, here, quarterback, between Brissett and Mariota. Probably go Brissett. Again, very tough matchup, so it is scary. And then in the flex, it's Tedero McMillan pretty easily. Now, Miner says round one of the playoffs. We go Burrow over Dart. Running back, you go Henderson over Monungai. Wide receiver, you're going to play the combo. Wide receiver and flex, you play Igbuka, Ladd, Debo Samuel. And then at tight end, you're going to go with Colson Loveland if Rome doesn't play. And if Rome does play, you go Gadsden. Now, Ricky, here, wide receiver. You play CeeDee Lamb. And then between Debo and Ladd, London's not playing and Marv's not going to play. I have Debo at 50 and I have Ladd 51 in our flex ranks this week. They're effectively back-to-back. Tyler Warren at tight end, Hampton in at the one flex spot, and then you go Ladd in at the other flex. Now, Kinzer, Jonathan Taylor, Chase Brown are the auto starts. And then in the flex, it's either Igbuka or Amari and Hampton. I'm going to go with Hampton, expecting him to expand his role. The only thing that I don't like for Hampton here is it's a really tough matchup against the Chiefs. Now, Uncle Wayne, running back, between Jordan Mason, Kamara, Kyle Monungai. Aaron Jones good to go, so Jordan Mason is unstartable. And I think that probably means that you just got to go ahead and start Kyle Monungai. I mean, Kamara's not going to play, and if Kamara does play, I would still start Kyle Monungai over him anyway. Now, Kinzer again here at running back. We're going to go with Javonte Chase Brown. Wide receiver, you play Justin Jefferson in a great matchup against the Dallas Cowboys. And then in the flex, it's between Michael Wilson or Amari and Hampton effectively. And again, if Marv plays, I think you go Hampton. If Marv doesn't play, I think you go Michael Wilson. Michael Wilson's been incredible. I hope that he continues to crush for our best ball teams. The holdup that I have and the only concern that I have, again, will be that it's a really, really tough matchup that we have against the Houston Texans DST. Like, in my opinion, that's the biggest concern that you have with Michael Wilson. Now, Alexis, here at wide receiver, you go Justin Jefferson in a great matchup. And then in the flex, your best receivers, Jacoby Myers, and your best running backs, Devin Neal. I would not start Mike Evans over probably either of these players. And honestly, this is a full PPR format. I'd probably go ahead and take Jacoby with the Jags projecting score 27.5 points this week. Now, DL1300 says, start Lamb, but if he's out, what do we do at wide receiver 2 in a flex? Okay, so CeeDee Lamb's most likely going to play. I would plan on going with Tyrone Tracy here in your flex. And what's going to be tough is Egbuka as well as Mike Evans both play tonight. So if you were to plan on CeeDee Lamb, and if he were to miss, and then you have to make a pivot, your only option would be Jawan Jennings. So there may be an argument to be made for you to go ahead and play Egbuka at wide receiver, Lamb in the flex, and then if Lamb doesn't play, you pivot over to Tyrone Tracy. It's going to be up to you in how big of a gap you see between Tyrone Tracy as well as CeeDee Lamb. I'm sorry, Tyrone Tracy as well as Egbuka. In my opinion, that's going to be the big difference maker there. Okay. Now, next question's from Chicken Tindy says, we have one flex where we can start a running back and one flex where we can't. The Dallas receiver that we have no interest in is on the waiver wire. Not going to go in that direction. I'd go Drake May over Joe Burrow at quarterback. And then we have to start at least a tight end here, essentially. You go Woody Marks at running back and then Kyle Pitts at the wide receiver / tight end. If you actually look at Underdog projections right now, they have Kyle Pitts for more receiving yards than any other player in this game. Kyle Pitts projects to have more receiving yards than Egbuka, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. Like, let me actually get this on the record right now. If anybody is watching this that has Kyle Pitts on their bench, you need to put Kyle Pitts into your starting lineup. Kyle Pitts does look like a must-start tight end given the matchup that you have with no London. Now, Dylan Davis, here at running back, you start Derrick Henry, James Cook. I'm used to just clicking on JT as an auto start. Wide receiver, you start Rice, Pickens. Tight ends, I would go Kyle Pitts over Tyler Warren. And then in the flex, it's either Saquon Barkley or Bucky Irving. Saquon has the better matchup against the Raiders. Well, how many teams are in this league? Okay, this is a 6-team league. I was going to say that you've built the best team I've ever seen here if you have to bench Jonathan Taylor this week. But yeah, as crazy as it sounds, I think I would bench Jonathan Taylor if I were you in favor of somebody like Saquon Barkley in a much better offense with a much better matchup. Which is just insane to say with how different these two players have been so far this year. Okay, now Beachy Babes, running back. I would go Chase Brown over Judkins and Hampton. And then in the flex, you do have Michael Wilson. That is an option. Of course, only under the scenario in which you were to have no Marvin Harrison. If you look at my ranks, I have Judkins at 24 in our flex ranks. And I have Michael Wilson at 27. Probably go Judkins here. Again, if it wasn't for the matchup against the Houston Texans, Michael Wilson would be the play. But I just keep going back to that being such a tough matchup. Okay. Let's refresh this. This one's coming from John Reel. For the flex, our best running back would be Kenneth Walker. Our best receiver would be Jacoby Myers. Looks like this is a full PPR formats. To be honest with you, my friend, I may go ahead and play Jacoby. $27.5 point implied team total for the Jags. And Jacoby's clearly the top guy if you look at the opportunities. Now, Nathan Reddy here at wide receiver. Between Michael Wilson, Alec Pierce, Mike Evans. You go Michael Wilson, not close. Tight end, Kyle Pitts. And then in the flex, Amari Hampton. Super easy. Now, give on quarterback between Hurts and Lawrence. You go Jalen Hurts. Wide receiver, J-Mo's an auto start this week. And then in the flex, Woody Marks is pretty much an auto start given the matchup against Arizona. Obviously, the main thing to monitor will be, is Nick Chubb going to play? Are we sure Woody Marks is going to play? I'm leaning right now towards Woody Marks is playing. Nick Chubb isn't. Okay. Now, our next question is going to be from D. Constjon. Here, running back, you play Javonte, Derrick Henry. Wide receiver at CeeDee Lamb and Rashee Rice. Tight end Bowers. And then in the flex spots, I would go with Igbuka as well as Woody Marks. Again, lowered expectations with Igbuka, just given the setup that you have with Mike Evans coming back in and taking some targets. Okay. Now, Ozzy, here, I'm assuming you need 2 running backs, 2 receivers, and a flex. I would leave these 2 running backs as is. I would leave those 2 wide receivers as is. And for your flex between RGRV, Jalen Waddle, Devonta Smith, Christian Watson, I would go Gadsden over Kincaid as well, by the way. Actually, I don't know. The Chargers project score 18 points. I think I would go Kincaid over Gadsden. There, I think you can flip a coin. It's a really tough spot to play the Chargers guys, though. And then looking at our flex ranks, I have RGRV at 25 in comparison to Jalen Waddle at 30, Devonta Smith at 38, Christian Watson at 42. So I do think you take the running back with the guaranteed opportunities. Now, Josh Allen's here. We need help with one of the flex spots. It's going to be, I would rather have Juwan Jennings over Godwin, and your best running back here is going to be Kyle Benungai, more likely than not. So it's really Juwan Jennings or Kyle Benungai, and if it's a full PPR format, this is a half PPR league, damn. Half PPR league, maybe go Kyle Benungai. Full PPR league, maybe go Juwan Jennings, but it is that close. What I wouldn't do is I would not play Chris Godwin tonight. For sure, don't play Godwin tonight. Now, Phoenix Lance, always happy to see him, my guess, is 0.2 point per carry, half PPR. Read about Igbuka with Evans back. Well, we know in general we want to be playing the running backs in the flex spot here. We're going to go Trevion Henderson at running back. I would still go Igbuka over Brian Thomas. And then I'd play Kenneth Walker as well as Jalen Warren there at RB, at flex, considering the 0.2 point per carry element to this. Okay, so now Super Seb, quarterback between Burrow, Caleb, give me Burrow. Running back, we are going to go ahead and play Bucky Irving tonight. Wide receiver, you play Olave. And then in the flex spots, I think you probably end up going Tedero McMillan. I don't care if Rome plays or if he doesn't. Honestly, I can't consider going Rome here. It's really going to be down between Jamison Williams and Quinshon Judkins. I do think that it is pretty close. Honestly, I probably go ahead and I probably take just the guaranteed opportunities with Quinshon. Do I love it? That's probably the direction you got to go with. Okay. Now, for Ravelli, here I don't see any swaps you could potentially make. I don't know if you had let me send you over a free start sit question. Don't know if you forgot to put your bench there. OPM wide receiver. You play the combo of Jalen Waddle and between Brian Thomas, Sutton, Devonta Smith. Honestly, Devonta Smith. And then in the flex, you're going to go with Cortland Sutton. Mike Bowe, here at tight ends. I would go Loveland if Rome doesn't play. Schultz if he does. And then in the flex, we're going to play the combination of Amari and Hampton. And honestly, I may go Dalton Schultz in such a good matchup over like Reed and Ricky Pearsall. I probably would. I think you actually play both those tight ends regardless. I think you go Schultz in one of the flexes. Okay. Now, Bobby with our next question. Here at wide receiver, between Rome, Burden, Evans, Brian Thomas. Oh, do you have a running back we can play in the flex? We don't. You know what sucks? I think you end up having to play Mike Evans on this team. And then Brian Thomas in the flex. I definitely put Evans at wide receiver, Brian Thomas in the flex in case you want to change your mind later. It'd be nice to have that additional flexibility. But it's one of those very rare instances where I think you can roll the dice on Mike Evans. Now, J-Balls here for the flex spots. RJ Harvey's your best running back. Your best receiver would be Waddle. And honestly, I think we play both of them. I don't think we can tell you to play Hampton or Genty here, considering how tough the matchups are for both players. Trying to think if there would be an alternative, but I don't think so, to be honest. Okay. Now, Buck, here, it's a 10-team start. I have no idea. I'll rank the running backs. You'd go JT 1, Brees 2, Marks 3. Wide receiver, Olave. Then between Tyler Warren and Harold Fannin, I go Harold Fannin if you have no David Njoku. And then if you needed a flex, how I would compare Chris Olave to the running backs is I would put Olave only behind Jonathan Taylor. But I would rather have Olave over Brees. I'd rather have Olave over Woody Marks. So hopefully that helps you out, my friend. Now, Camden, here for the flex. Between RJRV being your best running back, Egbuka being your best receiver, I go with the running back with the guaranteed volume. Give me RV. Now, slime season. Here at receiver, give me Jamison Williams in what projects to be the highest scoring game of the year. And then we'll take Devonta Smith in the flex as well. C. Tessier. Here, we need 2 running backs, 2 receivers, and a flex. You play Jalen Warren, Derrick Henry at running back. Not interested in Gainwell. Then your flex is between Brian Thomas, Mike Evans, Troy Franklin. Can y'all spam the chat? Would y'all rather play Mike Evans on a snap count, or would you rather play Brian Thomas? Mike Evans on a snap count or Brian Thomas? Who are you going with? Let me know in the chat. Evans. It looks like everybody's on the Mike Evans side. Let me see if Underdog has projections for Evans. I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't. They have Mike Evans higher or lower at 39.5 receiving yards. They have Brian Thomas higher, lower, 44.5. And they have Brian Thomas slightly more likely to score a touchdown. So take that for what you will. But I think it's a flip of the coin. What I would not do is I would not play Troy Franklin and I would not play Kenneth Gainwell. So Mike Evans, Brian Thomas, going to be up to you. I think it's literally a coin flip. Underdog likes Brian Thomas. Chat likes Mike Evans. Now, Dev, here, tight end, give me Tyler Bourne over Kincaid. And then in the flex, we are going to go ahead and we will take, it's either Devonta Smith, Trevion Henderson, or Amari and Hampton. I have Henderson, 34, Hampton, 35. And Devonta Smith, 38 in our rankings. So we have them all relatively close. We have Trevion Henderson with a slight nod. That game does have an over-under over 50 points. Now, Jet D here at wide receiver. Between Igbuka, Terry, you probably go Terry. And then in the flex, I think you're going to take the guaranteed volume of RJ Harvey. General rule of thumb, most teams that we see that have a start-sit question involving RJ Harvey, the play is you start RJ Harvey. Obviously not in every single scenario, but looks like for a hell of a lot of them. Now, Todd C, running back. I'd go Henderson over Dowdle, Walker, Monungai. Wide receiver, Justin Jefferson. I know I've been an idiot to say this consistently, but I'm going to go right back to the well. I believe Justin Jefferson is a must-start player. He's going up against the Dallas Cowboys. The Minnesota Vikings offense, even though they have garbage quarterback play, projects to be just fine. So if you have Jefferson, I think you need to go ahead and put him in your lineup personally. Now, C Gold here at running back, give me Kyron as well as Barkley. Wide receiver, give me Diggs, Metcalf. Actually, I apologize. I'd go GMO, Metcalf. And then in the flex, give me RJ Harvey. But yeah, you have to play JMO this week. Frilly Nudge here at wide receiver. It's Ladd or Stephon Diggs effectively. Give me Diggs for sure. The Los Angeles Chargers project to score 18 points this week. The Chargers project to be a bottom 5 offense in the league. I really don't have much interest in playing Ladd McConkey. Okay. Now, static running back between Kyle Monungai or Madre Stevenson. And I think it's an easy play of Kyle Monungai. And then obviously we can't play Byshell Tootin. And then in the flex, I would play Jawan Jennings for sure. Jennings does look like the wide receiver one for the Niners, who project to score a ton of points against the Titans this week. Now, Oscar Nuns here at running back. You're choosing between Javonte, Trevion. Give me Javonte. Tight end between Dallas Goedert and Aronde Gadsden. I'll take Dallas Goedert. The Eagles project score like 10 more points than the Chargers this week. And then in the flex spots, give me Jalen Waddle and Trevion Henderson. Codename Kid Next Door. Long time no see, my friend. Here, you're going to start CeeDee Lamb. Lamb looks like he's going to be good to go. He just got into full practice. If Jacobs plays, you go Jacobs and Jefferson in the 2 flex spots. If Jacobs misses, you're probably going to get stuck pivoting over to Amari and Hampton. But my expectations right now are probably Jacobs plays. Now, let's move this over to our next one. This is CMAC 14 Champ. Here for the flex between Tedero McMillan as well as Breece Hall. I probably go Tet. Well, typically we say like, oh, both these offenses are going to be bad. I believe the Panthers project to score 7 more points than the Jets this week. So like the Jets are a different level bad than the Panthers offensively. Now back to back here for the flex. It's between Igbuka, Amari Hampton, or Woody Marks. For me, I would go Hampton if Nick Chubb plays. I would go Woody Marks if Nick Chubb does not. Now, Gabe the Goose, give me Lamar over Goff, given the matchup against Cincy. Kyle Pitts is a must-start tight end this week. You're going to go Chase Brown and RJ Harvey. Actually, I apologize. Damn, you have good receivers. You're actually going to have to play AJ Brown over RJ Harvey. So you go Chase Brown and AJ Brown. Honestly, probably even FT against plays. Now, next question is all over for you. Quarterback between Brissett, Mariota, Tyler Shuck. Give me Jacoby Brissett. And then in the flex, I would go Amari Hampton over Evans and Sutton. Sego Bands, running back, give me Taylor Bijan. Wide receiver, give me JMO. I'd probably play Evans over Addison, to be honest. And you have no London, you have no Wilson this week. Tight end, you got to play Kittle. And then in the flex spots, I think we're going to go with the combo of, assuming Jacobs plays, right? Which is the assumption we have right now. Obviously, we know if Jacobs misses, you put Emmanuel Wilson in. But I think you probably go Addison, and then it's going to be Tyler Warren or Kyle Benungai. Full PPR format, I probably go Tyler Warren. And honestly, maybe we get some Tyler Warren Wildcat, given the quarterback situation. Now, James with this next question. Quarterback between Dart and Lamar, give me Lamar. Running back between Judkins, Woody Marks, give me Judkins. Wide receiver, Jefferson's an auto start. Tight ends. Both these guys are so freaking bad. You probably go Jawan, who's at least seeing more volume than Andrews. And then in the flex, I would go with Woody Marks, who's in a great matchup. And with no Chubb, he'll definitely see that guaranteed volume. Okay. Now, Sriracha Matt says, my team's Mason is dawdling all over my league mates. Love to hear it, my friend. Running back, we are going to go ahead and play CMC and Woody Marks. Wide receiver, we got Rice, Michael Wilson, A.J. Brown. Tight end, Bowers. You have a great team here. And then in the flex, I think you go Tedero McMillan and Devonta Smith. And I think you can afford to bench Egbuka with Evans back. Your team's good enough. Okay, so this next one's going to be from Milrow Glazer. Running back, Barkley's an auto start against the Raiders. And then in the flex, does seem like CeeDee Lamb is going to play. So I would plan on going with Lamb here, my friend. Okay, and if Lamb doesn't, you can pivot to RJRV. Now, Chase Belcack here at wide receiver, I would go ahead and play Ladd McConkey. Ladd's been horrible, while at the same time, a really tough matchup against the Chiefs where the Chargers project out very poorly, but you still probably play Ladd. And then down in the flex, if Rome plays, I'd go Rome. If Rome misses, you play Kyle Benungai. Now, Chase Belcack here with another one. Running back, Chase Brown, auto start. Wide receiver, Michael Wilson, auto start. And then a flex, I'm going to go with Breece Hall over Egbuka and Devin Neal. Okay, now Tom, here quarterback. I would go Brock Purdy over Lawrence and Brissett. Brissett's been a top 12 QB every week that he has started this year, but the Houston Texans have not allowed a top 12 quarterback finish any week this season. So Jacoby Brissett, really, really tough matchup, and will be a tough start for that reason. Okay. Now, Johnny, here for the flex. Christian Watson's an auto start. Your best tight end would be Dallas Goedert. Your best receiver would be Devon Vele. And your best running back could be like Tyler Algier. So honestly, I'd flex a tight end. I'd flex Dallas Goedert for this team. Now, too easy. Here at wide receiver, you play, honestly, I'd go Zay Flowers over Christian Watson given the matchup you get. And then between Terry, Christian Watson, and DK Metcalf, I currently have Watson at 42, Metcalf at 40, and Terry at 44. So we have them all in the same tier in our rankings this week. I do have Metcalf with a slight nod. Christian Watson does have a really tough matchup against Denver. Now, Tyrone here, you have Isaiah Likely in the flex. I'm going to be 100% honest with you, my friend. If you play Isaiah Likely over Justin Jefferson when Jefferson gets to play against the Dallas Cowboys, you deserve to lose. You just absolutely have to play Justin Jefferson. Do not overthink it, please. Put Jefferson in the lineup, take out Isaiah Likely. Undertakers, here at running back, you're going to play Hampton and Harvey. Wide receiver. And I want to be on the record saying this as well. Isaiah Likely is not that exciting. For everybody getting excited about Isaiah Likely, you're not missing out much if you bench him. Tight end between Colby Parkinson and Darren Waller. What kind of volume has Parkinson been getting lately? 4, 5, and 5 targets. I know he's been scoring receiving touchdowns. You see him on red zone all the time. Comparison to Darren Waller, the volume hasn't been there, and he's in a worse offense. I guess Parkinson, you can say he's projected out to be in the best offense in the league this week. And then you go to Devonta Smith in the flex. Now, cultivated jury. Here, quarterback, give me Burrow over Dart. Tight ends, we're going to go Goddard over Kincaid. And then you play Flowers and DeAndre Swift in the 2 flex spots. Now, David, quarterback, give me... I'll go Burrow over Lamar just because I'm an idiot. But, I mean, the Ravens project to win this game. And Lamar is going to run it more. Swift over Kareem Hunt. What's the volume looking like for Hunter Henry as of late? Volume actually hasn't been bad. I actually would go Hunter Henry there at tight end. And then you flex Michael Wilson with no Marv. Now, JP, quarterback between Caleb and McCarthy. Give me Caleb. McCarthy definitely has the better matchup, but still. And then in the flex spots, dear God. I want to consider Rome here regardless. I have Tracy at 45. Walker at 47. Sutton at 48. Ladd at 51 in our flex ranks. Dowdle at 41. So they're pretty much all in the same tier. When in doubt, I'll just take the running backs that I'm pretty confident the volume will be there. Okay. Now, Mike Starr, quarterback between Hurts and Dart. Give me Hurts. Running back, Gibbs, Kyron. Wide receiver, Lamb, Rice. Tight ends, Hawkinson's your only option. And then in the flex, it's effectively Devonta Smith or Wan'Dale Robinson. I have them at 37 and 38 in our flex ranks this week. So they are legitimately back-to-back for us. So I wouldn't fault you for going either way. I'll say Wan'Dale has a very good matchup. And if you feel like you're missing out from benching Jackson Dart, you could just go ahead and play Wan'Dale to get a piece of the offense. Now, C. Moosman. Here, quarterback, give me Brissett over Shadur Sanders, Tyler Boyd over Isaiah Likely, and then Tedero and McMillan there in the flex. Tough to bench Woody Marks, though. I actually do like Woody Marks as a play this week. Now, the Great Big C says, lock in Mason. Big money on the line. We're stuck on the flexes. Let me know. Appreciate you, my guy. Quarterback, we're going to go Stafford. The Rams project score the most points in the league this week. Here in the flexes, I would go Devonta Smith. Dowdle, I would expect to be the lead back in Carolina. And then if you look at the projections, Igbuka does project out better than Godwin and Evans. I think Igbuka will get more work, and I would play him over Chuba Hubbard. So I would probably plan on going with Dowdle, Igbuka, and Devonta Smith in a flex. Again, if we could, I would prefer to avoid pretty much all of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers wide receivers, just because it is a very tough spot with Evans being back, them taking that volume away, but I don't know if you're going to be in a spot where you can't avoid it here. Okay. Now, this next question is going to be from the Great Big C. It says, started 1-4, ended 9-5. Hell yeah, my guy. And first in points for. No first round bye in our league. 10K up for grabs. Let me know what you think of the squad, rest of season outlook, and thanks to the season, Big Dog. Flock League was fire as well. Let's get that bread. My guy, I very much am rooting for you. Obviously, 10Ks would be massive, massive. So looking at the team, this is a start 9 format. So start 9 league is like you can start 3 receivers and 2 flexes, right? So this is a league in which wide receiver depth is going to matter a considerable amount. So I'm not going to be able to just come through and say like, oh yeah, what we need to be doing here is we need to go through and we need to cut Chris Godwin and pick up Kyle Benungai and shoot for the ceiling. No, like you can build around wide receiver depth below. Looking at, and again, actually going back, we just answered that. Start set. I think yours is a 2 receiver, 3 flex, but regardless, wide receiver depth matters. Looking at what happens in the game tonight is going to be very important. If Chris Godwin's role looks tiny where you would have no interest in starting Godwin next week, I would go ahead and I would drop Godwin and pick up Brian Thomas from the waiver wire. I wouldn't want to be doing that though until after we see what happens with the Bucs wide receivers this week. Obviously, this offense is so concentrated in Tampa with Evans, Godwin, Baker, as well as Igbuka. Assuming we're past the trade deadline, so the only thing that we would potentially look at would be waiver wire pivots. And yeah, the main waiver wire move that I'd look at making is if you don't like what you see from Godwin tonight, I would go ahead and plan on dropping Godwin in favor of Brian Thomas. But very much am rooting for you, my friend. Let me go ahead and send you over a free start sit question. That way, when we make it past this week, you can go ahead and reach out to me for week 16. But this next one's for B. Walters. Here, running back between Judkins, Devin Neal, Breece Hall. Judkins, Breece, they're back-to-back. It's up to you. You play both of them because you're going to go Tet, wide receiver, Kyle Pitts over Tyler Warren, and then you're going to go Breece and Judkins at running back in the flex. Now, Dimney here running back. I think you play Trevion Henderson over Hampton and Genty, and then you go Jefferson in at the flex spot. Again, Justin Jefferson, I've been an idiot saying it for a month straight, but he remains a must-start wide receiver. Really good matchup against the Dallas Cowboys. And ultimately, you have a decent spot when it comes to the projections for this team, where the Minnesota Vikings have an implied team total of 21.5 points. It's like 3 points more than the Chargers this week. Now, Hance, running back, give me Chase Brown, DeAndre Swift. Actually, I'd go Tracy over Swift. Wide receiver, Nico, St. Brown. Tight ends, give me Kincaid. Can y'all spam the chat? Who would you rather have? Would you rather have Mike Evans or DeAndre Swift in your flex? Mike Evans or DeAndre Swift in your flex spot. Who are you going with? We got Swift, Evans. So if chat's saying Swift, I think you go Swift because if you don't play Mike Evans tonight, you get the added value that you give yourself an outside chance that if Josh Jacobs were to miss, you can go ahead, you can jam in Emmanuel Wilson, which obviously Emmanuel Wilson would be a must-start name at that point. Okay. Now let's refresh this, see if we have any more questions. Now this is from Colin C. Here, running back, you're going to go Breece for the guaranteed volume. Tyler Warren over Loveland if Rome plays. If Rome misses, you go Loveland. And then in the flex, I think you're going to go ahead and play Amari and Hampton. Now recognize one quarterback, one super flex, double flex quarterback. I'm sorry, double flex. Are we going to go QB or wide receiver at the super flex? Okay, so let's first fill this out. Wide receiver, you have Pickens, Nico. And then I'm assuming this is a double flex, and then the last one's a super flex. So in your 2 flex spots, you're going to play the combination of Olave, Michael Wilson, right? So the question is, do we want Igbuka in our super flex spot, Jacoby Brissett, or McCarthy? I would go with Jacoby Brissett, even with the tough matchup. So, again, not the most exciting scenario. But, yeah, I think you go Brissett there in your super flex. Jinx Dog here for the flex between Igbuka, Harvey, Amari, and Hampton. You play RJ Harvey. Discord made double flexes. You're going to play the combo of JMO and RJ Harvey and bench Igbuka tonight. Beef, you go Theo Johnson over Isaiah Likely, and then in the flex, Christian Watson's your best receiver. Your best running back, I guess, is Blake Corum, so you'll play Christian Watson even in a tough matchup. Now, Chaz, here, your best option right now on the bench is Brian Thomas or Mike Evans, depending on if you're feeling risky. And I would not play either of those options over Amari and Hampton or Tedero McMillan. So I think I'm going to go ahead and honestly just leave this with Hampton and Tedero McMillan. Michael says, for this week, start 3 out of Ladd, Jennings, Gainwell, and Godwin. Also Kincaid or Loveland. If Rome misses, I would go ahead. I would play Loveland. If Rome plays, give me Kincaid. And then Ladd, Jennings, Gainwell, Godwin. I think you have to play the 3 receivers. I think you go with Ladd, Jennings, and Godwin. If you really wanted to get Gainwell in, the guy that you would bench in my mind would end up being Chris Godwin. Which obviously the last thing I'm going to do here is come out and try to say that Godwin is super exciting, knowing that the volume, I mean, the points already weren't there, and now you get Evans thrown into the mix. So, don't get me wrong, not excited about Godwin, but it'd be tough to get Gainwell in when Gainwell's never seeing 10-plus carries. You're just banking on the receiving usage. But let me send you over a free start set question for next week, my guy. Okay, now, Jonnu, here, quarterback between Dart and Daniels. Daniels going to miss, so you got to play Dart. Derrick Henry, auto start against the Bengals. Chase Brown, you start as well. Tight end, give me Hunter Henry over Brenton Strange. And then in the flex, I would go Cortland Sutton over Evan Strange Hunt. Now, Vazzy, tight ends, give me Kyle Pitts over Tyler Warren and Loveland. Again, I want to remind everybody, if you have Kyle Pitts, because you have no London, he is an auto start. Now, side the guy here at tight ends, Kyle Pitts over Tyler Warren. And then in the flex spots, we're going to go with the combo of Devonta Smith, T. Higgins if he plays. Actually, here's the tough spot. We aren't going to have the T. Higgins clarity by the time you got to make this call, right? Because Godwin does play tonight. So I think you plan on T. Higgins. And if he doesn't play, your backup option actually probably ends up being Tyler Warren. Which, are we super excited about that? No, but I don't see the alternative for you. But Higgins did practice. Now, Cat in the Frat, you play Kyron Williams, auto start at running back, wide receiver Olave, and then in the two flexes, Michael Wilson, assuming that you have no Marv, as well as RJ Harvey. Now, if Marv does end up playing, you pivot over to Jalen Waddle. King Zach, here your best name on the bench right now is Brian Thomas at receiver. I'm an idiot, so there's a good shot that I would play Brian Thomas instead of Kyle Monungai and move one of the running backs to running back and put Brian Thomas in the flex. But if you wanted to leave this as is, I wouldn't fault you there for the flex. Only main thing that I would change is I would play Loveland over Likely. Again, I'm not a Likely fan. I know he almost had a really big day last week if they would have just called the touchdown correct, but again, I'm going to have a tough time getting there. Fabian, here running back between Harvey and Judkins. Give me Harvey if Dylan Sampson plays. If he misses, you can pivot to Judkins. They're back-to-back, up to you. And then Bowers at tight ends. Absolutely sucks with how bad the Raiders' offense is. I mean, I drafted a lot of Bowers this year, and that was probably... I showed it in the live stream last night. We tweeted it out. Our underdog advancement rates look incredible. Like, it looks like I have a real shot again to win another underdog tournament or two this year. So we did very, very well with our underdog drafts. But what we did not do well with is drafting Brock Bowers. That was a horrible call we made because we took a lot of them. Okay, now Destructo. Give me May over Purdy and Burrow. And then in the flex, Justin Jefferson auto start against the Dallas Cowboys. Esperto, tight end, give me Kelsey over Loveland. And then in the flex, I'd sadly probably end up playing Ladd McConkey. Not excited about it, though. King Breeze, quarterback, give me Burrow. Running back, Marks versus Hampton. I'd play Marks and Hampton. I'd bench Tracy, to be honest. And then tight ends, I would go Loveland if Rome does not play, Kincaid if Rome does play. The Legend of Mr. D. Here at wide receiver, give me Metcalf as well as Diggs. And then in the flex, we're going to take Jacoby. You could pivot to Dowdle if you wanted, though. Okay, we have two more questions here. Let me send over some free questions in the chat real quick. If y'all want to qualify for free questions, really simple. Just drop a like on the stream and then drop your flockfantasy.com username in the chat. Let me pull up the site real quick so we can get these questions sent over to everyone. Okay. And then Cody, here for the flex, I would say Christian Watson's probably the best name to get in, but I think you can leave this as is if you wanted. If you were going to swap anybody, it'd be Christian Watson for Igbuka. Isaiah trading Lamar for Burrow. I personally do have Burrow ranked over Lamar rest of season, where Lamar has just looked horrendous over the past 5 games. You keep assuming he's going to get better. But again, like last time Lamar scored 25 fantasy points was week 9. The last 5 games, he hasn't scored more than 21. Send out some free questions. This one's going to OG Zombie. Just sent you over that free start sit. Appreciate you hanging out with us. Let's send this to Saldizy, something like that. Saldizy. Just sent you over a free start sit. Let's send this to JC Giac. Just sent that over your way, my guy. Appreciate you as always. Send this to Shadow Fox. Is it Shadow Fax or Fox? No, it's just Shadow Fox. There are a lot of Shadow Foxes. There are 2 different Shadow Fox. Let me send it to whichever account was created most recently. They're both created the same day. So Send it to one, and hopefully it's the correct one. But, yeah, I'd rather have Burrow over Lamar. Let me see if we have any more questions coming in. We got David here, running back between Achane, Bucky. Achane for sure. Wide receiver, you're going to go ahead and you're going to play Tetero and McMillan. And then in the flex, you play Bucky Irving over these other receivers. So, obviously, you can say, like, oh, no, play Bucky running back, put Devon Achane here in the flex. I have no idea where the hell Achane even went. But because you have Bucky playing this week. Now, Mr. Miyagi, quarterback, Mr. Miyagi. Is that how you spell Miyagi? You have Darnold in a game in which they are heavy favorites. Honestly, I'd probably go Darnold given the weather that you have in Chicago over Caleb. That would be something to monitor, though. Running back, you play Dowdle as well as Kenneth Walker. You bench Jordan Mason. And then in the flex between Judy, Hunter, Godwin, Mason, I'd play Godwin, to be honest. But OG Zombie here for the flex. I would play, it's between Zay Flowers, Jalen Warren, Tyron Tracy, Stephon Diggs. I actually do like Zay Flowers here, if I'm to be honest. And you know what I just realized? Y'all are not going to be happy with me because I forgot to include the tight end in the flex rankings this week. Muscle memory had it where I didn't do that, but yeah, Flowers gets to go up against the Cincinnati Bengals, so that alone makes me want to go ahead and put them in. They project to score 27 points this week. Joey, best of luck to you, my friend. You know I appreciate you, and happy to hear we're still in it. Stu Buck here for the flex. You have Evans going tonight, or you can roll the dice on Luther Burden later on. I would go with Evans tonight, given the fact that you do have Rome Odunze practicing last week and Rome Odunze practicing yesterday and today. So I would go ahead and make that call. But I think we are going to... Yeah, I think we're all caught up with questions. So we got about 15 minutes till kickoff. Again, I very much am rooting for all of y'all. I will show this just because I know a lot of people have been asking as of late. I know a lot of y'all don't care. A lot of y'all don't hang out with us in the offseason when we draft a bunch of underdog teams. But just because a lot of people have been asking. Obviously, y'all saw what happened with my redraft league this year. If you follow the Flock League, back-to-back seasons where I've earned a bye in my redraft league. You can see every draft pick I make, every trade I make, every start set decisions I make. Hopefully that's enough transparency for you there. And it's resulted in back-to-back years getting a bye. And then also for underdog drafts, we advanced 26.5% of them. The baseline is 17.2%. So we crushed our underdog drafts as well so far this season. Have had a great year. We have 167 teams in the underdog playoffs now. So the goal is we get lucky with one of these teams and we take down a tournament. Obviously, far from a guarantee, but it would be really nice. But much love, ladies and gentlemen. If you're going up against me in one of those underdog playoff pods, you're going down, and I hope you have a horrible week. But outside of that, if you're just drafting against your regular league mates, I'm wishing you the best of luck and really hoping that you do well. Much love, ladies and gentlemen, and I will see y'all with the